First, I just want to do the obligatory introduction of myself. My name is Jonas Felix. Some people of you may know me. I'm living with my wife in Basel, in Switzerland. I'm working for CAB to motivate and organize a 13 developer strong TYPO3 team. I am a big open source enthusiast and started for me, not for everybody. There are people who started much earlier, quite early with open source, first with HTML in a school job introduction project in 1998. I saw the first body tag but then I went first to Linux and Java, and then I went back to TYPO3 in 2003, started to do TYPO3 projects and PHP development. And TYPO3 is very important for me. I use it since 10 years, and it keeps me in the air. I'm doing skydive, so I make a living of it. And so I'm very thankful for this great project. And what we want to talk about is what a lot of people may need. And as there are so many people, I think a lot of you may need this, which is basically working with a content management system means editing, doing stuff, trying it out, changing it. And maybe you're not done in 5 minutes. You need an hour or even another day because you have to check something else. So we want to do editing without boundaries, without thinking about what we are allowed to do or not. So we want to work. And this is a basic need of a content management system. And to do that, you need also to have a preview to see everything you do. Especially if it's a content management system where it's technical like TYPO3, where you don't have this full WYSIWYG stuff, but where you have those modules and records and stuff you can combine, and you never really know how it looks until you look on the page. And everywhere else you have this. If you print a poster, you print the first poster, and if it's okay, you print another 1,000. And then you have the publishing, which means that you have to be able to publish your changes. And this means also that you have to be able to publish certain changes. Maybe you want to print the first flyer, but not the second one. But in the content management area, or in TYPO3, it seems that this is not solved yet, or I don't know. So isn't it solved yet within 15 years, this need? I mean, TYPO3 is 15 years old. I'm here talking about the basic need, editing and publishing content. So it's kind of solved. It's not like nobody did something about it. So the first thing is I want to talk to you about what's out there, so you maybe better understand the reason why we did it and how we did it and why we did it this way. This is something you may know. I took on purpose a very old TYPO3 version. It's like a page element, you hide the page or you hide it in the menu. That's the way most people also today still do, like editing, preview, and publishing. They hide their page or their content and they go to the front end in the admin panel and show their hidden records, and or even just hide it in the menu and copy paste the link so nobody else sees it if Google doesn't find it somewhere. And I still use this, and I really like the admin panel. It still has a lot of features you should know. So, but this is not really an option for everything because you cannot change existing content very well. You cannot go into a big page, replace PDFs and images and stuff without having influenced the live content. That's something you cannot do with this. This is like the workaround from a user perspective. And then we have some history lesson. Casper thought of this issue very early, and he started to implement something very early. I'm not very sure if everything was done by Casper, but in a very early TYPO3 version, you already had versioning of records. In TYPO3, everything is a record. The page is a record. The content element is a record. A language is a record, and TypoScript is a record. So what he thought, or they thought, was like, if we do versioning for a record, we can use it everywhere. And so this was implemented very early, and it enabled the people to change stuff without having it live. So you could change single records and watch your changes, and try around. But there wasn't a real preview, and especially the publishing part was a big pain because it was difficult to publish like several changes in one place. So after a while of playing around with versioning, there was this mind-blowing video. If you're a little bit longer in the community, maybe you know this. This was Casper's podcast. For me, it was like the new iPhone. For my little sister was today. I was watching this Christmas podcast about workspaces where Casper is preparing his Christmas page with all the changes for the season and then publish it and put it back. And this was for me amazing. I was like, wow, that's what we need. That's what we want to use for all our customers. But that's why I asked at the beginning, is everybody using workspaces? And it seems not really. And I mean, workspaces is great. And I really like a lot of things about it. But the technical concept at the very bottom of it is quite difficult. As most of core developers can tell you, it's quite difficult to have a preview in the front end. And there are certain areas which are just not solved, like file versioning. And if you talk to a customer and you tell the customer, but you may not replace the PDF because then it's already live. This is quite difficult to explain. So it's not like completely fluent in using it. We actually have a lot of customers working with workspaces, and we really also try to help workspaces. I don't know if you remember, Sonja Scholz worked for us, and she helped out in the workspace area a little bit. So this is also still for us some option for certain pages to use. But it has some backdraws because you will never have a complex functionality preview. So if you have like an extension which has a complex search with filter, you will never, not never, but it's quite hard to implement a search which is looking at the workspace data. So if you work in workspace and you have another version and you want to look if it's in the search, you won't find it because it won't be indexed. Because workspaces works with overlay records, so you have to overlay every single record. So you basically cannot work with SQL and everything. That's the main issue. That's why the XBase team is still fighting with this big issue. But still, for me, Casper was a big genius, or is still a big genius, even if he did some mistakes in basic concept, but still the idea and the functionality and that it was done is great in my opinion. And then we continued to some other ways because there are some other possibilities. That's what you mentioned before, like this is maybe not served, but I just wanted to explain it simple. There is another way to do this, like you have a test server, you play around and then you fully publish your content. This is also a great solution for some sites, but it also has some backdraws because you can only publish full content. You do a full copy, so you work on this typo3, you can do whatever you want, you can test everything, even complex interfaces to other databases, you can test it. And then you publish the whole system. But there is a big backdraw, you cannot edit on the live. Or it gets complicated, let's say it like this. So it's like more the hammer version of just hitting the problem down, more from a technical perspective. So that's something a lot of people who had to have a very high content quality did at the moment, that they really had like a full copy publishing to have a full review. And actually the story is like this. I think 1.5 years ago, we had a project where we really needed this because we had a very complex extension where the customer could like configure his own user interface for a REST backend solution, for an internal database solution, for finance contract management. So the developers could like configure their own web interfaces that dock to a backend system. And that's something we needed to have a publication process, but it wasn't, a full copy wasn't an option because they had to build a lot of separate trees and just publish 1 or 2 trees. So that's why we really had to do this. And that's why we couldn't do this. It was the first option, but it's difficult because you always have to change to publish the full system. And so we looked around and we found a solution from Susanne Moog. She wrote a T3N article about it. I don't know if you remember it. It's a content staging extension, Noista staging called. It's actually, for some use case, it's a quite nice extension. I called her immediately and asked her, how is it working with this extension? We want to build something similar. Can we do it with that? And she helped us a lot. So it was really nice, and we tried to use it. But it's very close to what we wanted to do, but it has some backdraws. That's why we couldn't use it. Basically, it's the same. It's two typo3s, and you have the possibility to push content onto the live typo3. So basically, it's an option to solve all the editing, previewing, and publishing parts, because you can preview everything on this system. You can publish part of it, and then you can preview it before. So you have all those components fulfilled. But it needs a lot of configuration. So you really have to configure everything very specific, and there are a lot of use cases not caught with this solution. So it basically doesn't parse the typo3 structure. You really have to tell it what it has to publish. So it's great if you have several systems and you want to publish content to several typo3 systems or special content to the live system, where you really configure a specific table. It's a great solution, but it's not like the out-of-the-box solution for everything. It's just more or less for a certain kind of content. Of course, you can configure it for pages and content for everything, but it's, yeah.
That's a question. You can't edit on live in this scenario?
I don't think so, no, because it doesn't match the UIDs. It doesn't take care of the UID. This was a big point where we saw like we would have to rewrite most of it. So we didn't take it. Normally, I'm really trying to take existing stuff, but it wasn't just not possible. So what now? Just to remember, we want to have a system, a typo3, where we can fully edit. We can say the user, that's what we trained you, do it, have fun, try it out. Go to another employee and say, review my stuff, but review it real, like with all the images and flash videos and searches and maybe crazy filters and JavaScript and extensions, because only then we really know if it's okay to publish it. And then to publish it, but not everything. But because in a bigger corporation, you have several departments with several tasks. So it's not like if maybe the product department, product managers are building a new product line in the website, and the HR department comes and says, yeah, we have a new job, we have to publish the whole web page. Maybe this is not working because you have like a lot of jobs, but like one product line a year. So what do we want to do? You may guess we developed an extension, and in every good movie you have opening credits, and that's why I did this first. I want to thank Nils Blattner very much. He is a great developer, started not in the typo3 world, but in another development world, but he's working now for 4 years at our company, did a lot of development with typo3 and XBase, and he's basically the brain behind it. I had the idea several years ago, and I saw it somewhere, and I thought somebody should do this someday, but I never had time and the people to do it. And with Nils Blattner and those customers, I now had the possibility to do this. And then we have Manuel Bloch. He did the requirement engineering with the customers and the project management, and Wagner, our head of quality, who tested it and documented it, and a lot of other people who helped, and I cannot mention them by name, but we have a great customer. I hope they watched the video, who helped us a lot with insight of the process of the customer. So the publication process was not like created by a developer, it was really like done together with a customer for a real life purpose. So let's see what I want to talk about. Because I know from other T3 cons that live demonstrations are always a little bit risky. I did a video. So let's see. Okay, we are in a typo3 backend introduction package. We are on the edit system. this is a regular tree. This is not something prepared typo3. It's just the extension installed. And now we have the public typo3. It has basically the same tree. It's the live typo3. And we changed the color of both systems so you always know on which system we are. So we have the green live system and the red edit system. And now I do some changes just as we usually do. I create a page. And I don't want to think about what I'm doing. So with other solutions, I sometimes have to think about, do I do a PowerMail form or do I do a record of this extension? Is it possible to do this in workspaces or will it be live? And with this case, you don't have to. You can just do whatever you used to do in typo3, add some text, add some files. And when we're talking about files, this is something I think there is no solution yet, but full copy, because people want to replace PDFs with the same name, but they don't want to have it live, but they still want to test it. So that's also something we solved. And that basically the whole complicated part about it is the relations within typo3. Just copying data isn't difficult. The difficult part is knowing about the relation. This is a content, this is a page, and which change happened where, and which content belongs to which page, and which category to which record. So we play around a little bit, and what we also do is we do a change we don't want to publish. So maybe the product manager does a new product line, and the HR person doesn't want to have it published with their job publication. So you can also do changes you don't want to publish. Obviously, there are some other issues and tasks you have to think about if you do such a solution, which is deleting stuff, especially if you work with Templawala. I don't know if you know Templawala. It's in my opinion, a great solution. It has some technical backdraws, and I think it will survive for some years. But you have a lot of things in typo3 which work a little bit different than the default things in typo3. So you have to really take care of a lot of things to do this, and I think that's the reason why there is no solution out there. So we did some changes. We have a page we don't want to publish. We have a new PDF which is not on the live system, and now the magic begins. We make sure that it's not on the live. I mean, I could have faked everything because it's a video, so I shouldn't. Okay, now we go to the content staging module. Maybe you already saw this content staging module, and now we see the changes. We have a simple tree. We can select the depth of changes we want to see. We see the live system and the edit system, and we can have a technical view of the changes, something we will improve, but most important, we have obviously a live view. Nothing big, because you know this maybe from workspaces, but this obviously works also like a left website, right website, where you can really compare, with the difference that we didn't have to make much complicated stuff, because there is a live typo3 and edit typo3. They're just two typo3s. We don't have to like tell it you are now in edit mode. It's just a typo3. And now we want to publish it. And now the magic happens. Basically, it goes to all the changes of the area I selected and only publishes these changes. And it resolves all the relations and shows you what it has done. It also shows errors, like we couldn't clear the cache on the target system because of this name is not working on the server. And now we see that the changes are published in the live system. Something you could also do with workspaces, I know. But this is done with two systems. So there are really two separate systems. And if you look close, you see this one page wasn't published. And you see it on the front end, obviously. Same changes. And what's also very interesting, we only published the data we really had to publish. So now it should go in the backend. And if you look here, there's only the PDF published we had linked, not the image which wasn't linked. So this is the first simple use case. This is something you could do with workspaces to a certain point. What you couldn't do is this PDF, and what you couldn't do is the preview with real life settings. But now there is a use case which is a little bit more interesting. And I hope this makes it a little bit more clear what's the point about this solution. So we are again in our introduction package, but now we're talking about the news module. I didn't select a special extension. I installed introduction package, installed our extension, and just took the news plugin. And I moved the news plugin up there because, or the news page, because I want to have it in our playground area. And I want to copy this and make a new search because I need a new search. Now, for the next publication of the page, I need a news search. So I just copy the page with all its content as we usually do, nothing special, just common TYPO3 features. And I want to do some changes to the plugin. So I change it to a search plugin. Maybe not a task that every user does, but what's important that you can use the search already. So because it's a plain TYPO3, it's not special, you can use everything. The whole search logics, you could also use permissions and time scheduling or whatever the extension can do. You could also use MM-Forum or whatever you want to use with that. And now I create a category to show the relations between records and categories can also be published. So you know you're in a TYPO3 training. So this is the basic course of TYPO3 backend editing. So this part is basically what you couldn't do. You could edit this, but you have to think about if the extension works with workspaces, and you couldn't preview everything of it. Some extensions built their own workspace implementation, so you could preview it, but you couldn't do like a search. So what we do is a category, and we do also some category filtering. So you really don't have to think about what you're doing. So we have to select this category, otherwise it won't be searched also on the edit system. And now the funny part about this, obviously you find the news. I mean, it's nothing special, you find the news. Here it is. Thank you, Casper, for this great CMS. And now we want to publish it. And you go back to the content staging module. It's a simple task. You publish the records, you see what you have changed, and you push it onto the live system. And you go to the live system to see that it's not published yet. And now we publish it. And then first we publish the records. It also checks all relations with categories and changes to the news. And now we publish the changes for the news search. It also checks delete stuff, so it really checks all changes to the live system. So if somebody else already worked on the live system, you see the changes between your version and the live version. And now we have published the plugins. And now we see that the plugins and the news and categories are published. And as you may know, plugins don't work with regular database stuff. They work with something called FlexForm, which is some XML in the database for storing this information. So it's not that easy to resolve this stuff. And now it works on the live. If you clear the cache. So you know it's not faked. Otherwise, I would have cut everything out of the video. So we see this news, and obviously it works. Why does it work? It's a live system TYPO3. It's an edit system TYPO3. Both systems are full TYPO3. You could install every extension. You could do whatever you want, and you can use it. And we didn't only think about publishing all kind of stuff. We also thought about why not publishing the history. So we not only publish all the records and changes and relations of the area of the page you want to publish, we also publish the history, which means you can roll back any change separately, and you can roll back complete publications. And that's a great thing about this. It's basically a very simple concept of having two TYPO3, selecting the area you want to publish, and it publishes only the changes of this area of the tree and all related stuff that is needed. And that's why we also publish the history, which is great for the user because he can publish changes from the edit to the live, and then he can check every step that was made to this change. He can revert the whole publication, and he can revert all single changes, which is very handy if you have like a big publication and you have one little change you want to revert, or you want to understand why change happens. And that's why we go to the next demonstration of another feature of content staging, which is review process. So why do people do something like this? Why do you not only work on the live system? It's pretty simple because some people don't trust themselves that they always do everything perfectly in the first moment, and a lot of organizations have processes where somebody else should check somebody's work, and for that you need the possibility to review something. And with this you have the advantage that you have full control over the system. You have 100% view of the edit system, how it will look on the live, and then you can publish it partially. So that's why we also implemented a reviewing process, which is basically pretty much the same as we saw now, but with a reviewing process enabled. Oops. So we're back in our system, we do some changes, and there's nothing different to other changing in TYPO3, so I cannot show you like a special different form. It's plain TYPO3 you can use. I did a small change, and now I go to content staging. And now I have the possibility to start a review, select who has to review it, and create a review with a message, and send the review request to the other employee. And this is something we choose to do this way with the customer because normally this is the regular use case. You tell somebody, please watch my page, is it okay? And the person gets an email, checks the changes, and says if it's okay or if it's not okay. And if it's okay, you can publish it, and if it's not okay, you may not publish it and you have to change it. What's special about this is that obviously if you start a review process, you may not change stuff. So it also takes kind of a snapshot of your changes so it knows that nobody else changed something. So if you're done with your work and say, now I want to publish my work, but I have to have it reviewed, it recognizes which change you did and knows if somebody have changed it. And then you can create a review and see who reviewed it and if somebody declined it or if somebody didn't do anything. And you also have like a list of reviews you still have to do. This is a pretty simple add-on of a review process. You can define groups you want to have for a review, and you can define the process, how many people have to accept the page. But we didn't want to do it like with workspaces where you have like the stages for every single change, because users don't think in changes. Users think in pages. Users print out the page A and they have the old page B and they look if it's okay. Maybe not every user, but that's the way how most people think. They don't think in I changed the title. They think we changed something on this page, please look at the page, is it okay? And then you accept the changes the person did. And if the changes are accepted, you can publish the page. This is basically how everything works. And if you have to change something again, the review process is reset, so you have to review it again. So it's pretty simple how it works. This is a process we developed with the clearance department of a Swiss bank. So they really walked through all the steps which are very important for them. And for them, the most important thing is to be sure that nothing is published you don't know about, to be sure that you see everything the way it is on the live, and to be sure that everything is approved and archived, and that you see every change with the note who did it. So that's what they really need. It's not like 20 steps within the review. What they have to know is like, if people review something, they see what they will see on the live system, and nothing is published which is not reviewed. And if they publish it, they can go back every time and they see who changed what. And that's why we took this very simple process of basically doing what you did before, but starting a review before, where somebody like signs off the changes. So to explain it a little bit how it works in a more detailed way, is there is one big question about this, is what happens if something changes on the live system? Because you work on the edit system and some stuff maybe changes on the live system, and you want to be sure that if you publish it to the live system, it doesn't do any damage to existing content. So this was the biggest first question of the whole system, that you have to have some way of like, if you put content here, it must not interfere with existing content on this side. And as you may know, TYPO3 works with these numbers, as most databases do, but they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And everything in TYPO3 has this number, and if like you have a category and you have a content, they're related with that. And those numbers have to match. And there are some ways of doing this differently, by using like more complex numbers, which are always different. But this is not implemented in TYPO3. And one of the biggest requests for our system was we didn't want to make it specific for certain extensions, certain versions, or certain kinds of data. We wanted to do it for everything in TYPO3 with every kind of extension. Because all other solutions out there who tried to do this basically at the end failed, or not many people used it, because you had like a long list of extensions you couldn't work with it. So that's the great thing about this thing. It doesn't matter what kind of extension you use or what kind of record you use, as long as it's TYPO3. And the way we did it is basically very simple. You have a live system, and you can initialize the edit system with one click, and then it copies the full live system to the edit system, and it changes this number with 2 millions. You can also say 10 millions. We tested it with really big system, and it works. And Nils has had a lot of mathematics studies, but it's not a big deal. But he really thought about if it could be an issue or something. And with this, you could initialize the system at least 1,000 times. So what you basically do is you have the content area of the edit system and the content area of the live system. And if you do something here and you do something here, it never interferes, and all the relations still work. So this is a pretty simple solution, which actually is tested very well. So we have customers working with this for more than 1.5 years, very intensively. And And then this was the initialization, something you usually do just once, because afterwards you can do everything with publishing. And afterwards, what it basically does, if you select a page and you see the changes, it shows you the difference to the live system and pushes the changes of the elements you want to push. And for that, it compares the databases. So you have like the extension on the live system, and you have the extension on the edit system, and it compares everything and resolves every relation. So if you want to publish a page, it checks like the content of the page, the links in the content, the files related to the content, and it shows you everything, and you can push everything grouped, which has changed to the live. And the great thing about it, you can also push it back. So doing these demo videos, I had to push back and forth a lot of my changes. I reverted it with the history, and I even reverted it with the full snapshot. So that's the really cool thing about it. You can just push around your changes from live back to edit, from edit to live, change it again, push it again. And you can revert everything with history, and even if you revert it with history in Typo3, you can still push it in the other direction, and all links still work, every category is still related, and you just push the part you want to push on the other system. So this is really foolproof for regular users. And because I just have 3 minutes left, I just can give you a small overview of all the other features it has. So the most important feature is it also works for your Typo3. Maybe not if you're working with 6.2 beta 3, but we will do that. But it works with your Typo3 and with your extension. Everything that is based on TCA, which everything should be if you work with it in the backend. So if you have in your backend, you have this page module or list module, everything you can do there is working with this. It resolves all the relations, which is basically the main job of this tool. And it also works with crazy stuff like Templawala or flex forms, or the new clean stuff, grid elements. It also works with Ire. And you can define review groups for certain areas of the page, like which people have to review which changes on which page. You can define review processes. Do you have one person to sign the change or 2 persons to sign the change? Everything is built with XSpace. I know my speech is too technical, but I thought that maybe most of the people are more technical, which basically means it's future-proof. It's like built with a way of developing within Typo3 most people know. You can define mail information, which mails are sent in which cases. You have a nice word from the Flow 3 world. You have strong conventions, so it works basically out of the box. Of course, you need 2 systems, and you have to define the database access, but everything else just works. You can install the extension, define the path of the other system in the database, initialize it, and then you can play around and push and get, independent of using MM4 or TT products or TT Casper version 1 extension 2003. And you have a lot of options. You can define which things should be pushed or not, if users are allowed to push multiple page or just single one. You have the comparison view. You have every publication is possible to be reverted. So everything you publish you can revert with 1 click, but on a user base. So the regular user working with it can just revert the last publication for his area he published. And obviously you have a history within Typo3, so you can also revert single changes, which is very important if you just want to do something back. And that's really important. If you don't know the Typo3 history, it's great. So you can, with every record, you can go into the history and you see the changes and you see who done it and go back to the last one. And you can push in both directions. So you can work on the live system and go back, because in the real world, it's not like everybody has to work here, and if you don't do it, everything blows up. You have to be flexible. So the system had to be flexible, because the real use case is that in some use cases, you just have to work on the live system for certain stuff. So you shouldn't, but it's possible. You may do everything on the edit system and just publish it, but you could also work on the live system and publish it back. And if you take a look at the future, some features we will implement in the next month. Obviously, 6.2 compatibility. This is one of the first steps, but it shouldn't be a big deal as I saw it. Then one of the important things is improving the comparison view. The great thing about this, we do this together with 2 customers who really use it. So we do like workshops with them and think about how we could change it that the user can really use it better. So the next step is also to improve the whole UI, how you work with it, the buttons and everything. Then we will do a file staging module with file. That's what you can publish files now, but you cannot like publish directories separately from a page. You always have to publish a page. And something we already tested and it already works, but it needs some more change to have it really running, is you can have multiple systems. So you can have like a mothership system with multiple trees and multiple systems where you publish certain trees to. For this, we need all configuration in page test. That's something which is nearly done, so you can configure nearly everything on a page level. So you can say for this department, we have totally different rules than for this department. This department has to use review process, this department have Wild West, everything, everywhere. Then we want to do like some UI stuff, page tree overlay with colors, and something we're looking, somebody who maybe helps us is like an on-page overlay, where you really see the changes with like colors. That would be really cool. And some small stuff like a pull button or a preview of all the dependencies or single change selection. So this is something we will do. So try it. We will upload it to the Tear tomorrow, and the Forge project is already out there. I think some of the people here, not sure, have already access since some month. I gave the access to some people at the Dev Days, and I will send out the links of the videos and infos on my Twitter account and on the TER, so you can try it and play around. And most important, in my opinion, because we do this for certain customers and we want to do it for all our customers in the future, is play around with it, change it. So in the open source sense, the great thing about open source is that you can take something, change it. If you don't like the button, change it. Why do we work for such big companies? We're a company with 13 Typo3 developers and 16 people. This is not big in the IT world. And why do we work for such big customers? Because we can change everything, and the system we use can be used by every other company too. So this is the great thing why I not use Microsoft SharePoint or something for everything. Because I can just take it and change it, and if the customer says me, I want to have a red button, I want to have the tree bottom up, I can just do it. So please, if you have anything to improve about it, copy it, make your changes, and send us your changes or send us a pull request so we can look at it. So now, thank you. I hope I didn't confuse you too much. Questions? Yes?
Regarding the review process, is this completely also recorded in this history? So then the review process is some sort of Git log?
Yes. Yes.
With comments?
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, but you don't have a view yet to see all the comments.
Okay.
So that's something which is not done yet, is like having like a history of review answers with changes.
Yeah.
But that's basically due to the fact that we recognize that most end users are overwhelmed with such technical features. Normally they just look a page and they say it's not okay or it's okay. And they change it again and then they check if it's now okay. So this is why we didn't spend too much time yet into advanced review steps view. Okay. But that's something which can be very easily implemented. Cool. So the reviews are basically records. Every review is a record with a relation to what has changed. So it's pretty easy to extend the reviews. You could easily write your own module with showing review steps or something. But for sure, we will work on that. But what you can do is you can see every change between every review. So this is possible, yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yes?
Can you tell us how you handle conflicts? So if I edit a the page title on the edit system and on someone else does it on the live system too, and then I want to publish the change from the edit system to the live system, does the extension detects there will be a conflict, or does it just overwrite?
You see the difference, but it doesn't like say you that there is a conflict. You see the difference, that something is different on the live and on your system, but it doesn't tell you like somebody changed it. No. But you can revert it. But that's a very good idea. That's something we could implement, like showing a sign if we see that somebody on the live system did a change,
which is not on the edit.
Which is not on your system. That's possible. Yeah.
Should we implement for references as well?
For ref index, yeah, for the references, yeah. Yeah.
References to just one element from, for example, 10 pages.
Yeah.
And you will see you are not only checking this page, but the other 10 pages as well.
Yeah. You see this, but but that's the conflict we don't show, because the regular use case is you work on the edit and then you publish your change to the live. But this is pretty simple to implement. It's a good idea. Some more questions?
No questions, just great stuff.
Pretty cool.
Really cool.
Yes?
Which version can you use it?
We use it in 4.5 and 4.7. It should work with 6, but we didn't test it too much. But it shouldn't be any problem. We will do it for 6.2 in December. We have scheduled some time to do it in December. But it's not working now if you have like a 6.1 out of the box. It maybe will work. It could work. Actually, maybe you just install it and it works, but maybe not. Yeah.
On the edit system, you need direct database access to the live system?
Yes, because of performance and being able to check everything. So you have to have file access to the live system, and you have to have database access. Yeah, because of the performance. But we use it on several servers, so you can have 2 servers. You just have to talk to your server guy that the files should be editable from both systems. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay.